Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to cover a topic that's very interesting. It's on Singapore property cooling measure. Hi, I'm Vincent Woon from Home MV. Okay, I'm going to share my slide with you now. Just hang on a few seconds. Okay, so this is the topic that I'm going to go into, property cooling measure. The reason why I came up with this topic is because there have been a lot of buyers asking me about this question, whether will there be a cooling measure and also what is the impact of this cooling measure. So also from the media, there's been a lot of rumors and news that says that cooling measure may be coming in. All right, so before I go into my analysis, this is the disclaimer that whatever that I'm going to share here is based on my own research. So please do your own analysis before you make the decision to buy any property. Okay, so I'll basically be covering a few key areas that may be of interest to you. Number one is whether or not there will be a new cooling measure. Number two is what is likely to be the cooling measure. And last but not least, what is the impact of this cooling measure? Okay, so before we can actually analyze, I would like to bring you back to the past where all the cooling measures were being implemented. So I like these slides that shows that all the past cooling measure. This is the summary. Okay, but I'd like to bring your attention to the year 2013, where there were a few harsh cooling measure. Okay, these were the ABSD and the TDSR. So this actually significantly discouraged people from buying multiple properties. Okay, because it actually become more costly to own a second or third property, and also the ability for them to borrow more money. Okay, so those with car loan, personal loan, or with existing property loan, they will definitely face more challenge. If their income is not high or is not high enough, they may be affected. Okay, so let's look at what is the impact of the 2013 cooling measure. Okay, so you can see from here, this is the property market trend. Okay, for the past 20 over years. Okay, so you can see from here, right? After the global financial crisis, our property market did recover strongly, about 60%. And because of that, right, the government is very concerned. So they actually implemented several rounds of cooling measure, with 2013 being the most harsh cooling measure. Then actually after that, right, you can see the turning point that the property market actually cooled down by almost 12%, 11.6% to be specific. All right, so let's look at the second round of the cooling measure, which is also quite recent and quite a harsh measure. That was in 2018. Okay, what was this cooling measure about? Mainly, the ABSD has again increased by 5% across the board. So imagine if you are a Singaporean, it used to be 7% for second property. Now it becomes 12% for second property, right? So what happened after that? And then also one more cooling measure was the loan to value, which has been decreased from 80% to 75%, meaning now you can borrow lesser. So with this cooling measure, this time round, the property market only corrected by about 0.7, less than 1%, okay, before it start to recover again. Okay, and then this drop was caused by the pandemic, but shortly after it rebounded again. Okay, so why is there a drastic difference between the 2018 and the 2013 cooling measure? It all boils down to one thing, okay? Because just now remember I bring your attention to the 2013 cooling measure. What happened back then? Actually, there were a lot of speculators. Okay, speculators are people who actually come in to buy property with a shorter horizon to make money from it, and then they will try to buy 2 or 3 properties to make money. But after the 2013, it's very difficult to own second or third property, which is why we actually remove a lot of speculators. But back then, right, because of these speculators, the prices really, you can see the impact was quite severe, more than 10%. But this time round, is only 0.7%. So with this being said, right, I believe history may repeat itself, that if there is a new cooling measure this time around, it will be quite similar to the last cooling measure. All right, because you must remember the intent of the government to introduce cooling measure is, first of all, never to crash the property market. It's basically just to cool down the property market. That is why it's called a cooling measure, to prevent a bubble from forming and there will be a sharp correction later on. Okay, so actually basically is to prevent the price from overheating, in other words. All right, so that being said, this is my assessment of the likely impact of the cooling measure. But if there is any cooling measure, what will it be? Okay, so this is my opinion, right? That I think that most likely, right, if there's any new cooling measure, it will most likely be affecting the investor. Meaning to say, people who are buying second or third property, it will become even more difficult. Okay, and what about for genuine homeowner? That means the first owner, you're buying for your own stay. All right, I would say that the impact will be minimal. Okay, probably you'll be affected by things like the TDSR. Okay, total debt servicing ratio currently is at 60%. All right, they may adjust to 55 or even 50%, and that may be across the board or only on the second property. Very hard to say. Okay, but I would say that most likely the impact will be more towards the investor. Okay, and not so much about the genuine homeowner, because for genuine homeowner, you are already buying for own stay. So with that being said, right, if you are buying for own stay, should you wait? Maybe because this will benefit me. All right, for second owner, no need to say. If you wait, that may not be a good thing for you, because it will only become harder and harder to own a second or third property. Okay, for all we know, this time round, the ABSD may even increase by another 3% or 5%, we won't know. Okay, but definitely it will be harder. Just like one of my friends who actually saved up his money to buy a second property, and he waited and waited, hoping that ABSD will be removed, because at that time it was 7%, but who knows, in 2018 it increased to 12%. So there goes his dream of owning a second property, because he has been saving so much. So I would say for this group, for this category, no need to wait. Okay, the cooling measure won't be advantageous to. But let's talk about for the own stay, people who are buying their first property. Should you wait? Okay, so this is, again, I bring you all to this chart again. Okay, just let me erase all this. Okay, so let's look at this chart again, and you will see that, right? Okay, based on the last cooling measure, there was only a drop of about 0.7%. Okay, because now don't have so many speculators. So I just round it up to probably 1 to 2% adjustment. Okay, and if you are buying for own stay, okay, so let's say, because right now the first quarter the prices already move up by 3%. Okay, first quarter you can see that the price already move up by about 3%, and there's no cooling measure. Let's say second quarter it move up by another 3%. Okay, and then also there's no cooling measure, let's say. But let's say by the third quarter the price again move up by 3%. All right, okay, then you can see here for the first 3 quarters the prices already increased by 9%. 9%, you can see from the chart here. All right, based on the last cooling measure, okay, the prices went up by 9.6% before they introduced the cooling measure. So let's say only, okay, for the third quarter, then the government introduced the cooling measure came in. Okay, but by then, right, the prices will have already gone up by another 6%. Okay, went up by 6%, and the cooling measure came in, and probably you can say this time round, probably the impact is more, so it dropped by 2%. But you can see from here, the net off is overall, the prices has really gone up by another 4%. Okay, so does it really pays to wait? Even if I said the cooling measure only came in on the second quarter, your prices also went up by another 3%. Even if the price dropped by another 2%, the net of impact to you is also not significant. You don't see that significant savings in the property price. In fact, if you wait, right, it may be even more difficult for you to buy because of the TDSR may be affected, may be adjusted to from 60% to 50%. Then in that case, you may have to choose a smaller property because of your affordability. So my conclusion is that this is my analysis. There's no right or wrong, but we should never time the market. It's very difficult. We should always buy based on our affordability and whether we have a need to buy and when you are ready. It's never about whether the market is ready for you. So with this, I hope that you have enjoyed my analysis. And if you do like my analysis, please put a like and give your comment, or you can share your views also so that we can all learn together. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in my next video.